From atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West, you are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for July 15th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is hour one of two, and the goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, and to do so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, indeed, we use the belligerent ignoring of the supreme law of the land against those who want to destroy America. Yes, indeed, we use the proper role of limited government, folks, every time. Okay, they can't just belligerently do whatever they want to, but it's up to you and I to uphold the supreme law of the land, the Constitution. So we use the checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers as one of the peaceful, restorative solutions we still have at our fingertips. The supreme law of the land is key, folks, but it only works if you and I insist upon it. We'll get to that as the broadcast unfolds several times today, but it's really vital to understand. We reject revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution. We want to follow the Prince of Peace. And right now what I see is this. I perused some of the news sites today, and what do I see? Oh, my gosh. It's the Ghislaine Maxwell scenario. It's the meltdown from Doge. It's the meltdown from Jeffrey Epstein. It's war, international intrigue. It's floods. It's fires. So natural disasters everywhere. It's division on every hand. Folks, we have got to take a step back and say, look, things are not all political. In fact, I believe the term politics is nothing but a way to divide we the American people. We ought to be wise and not fall for it. Everything is not political. Political is just a term for division. Think about things from a moral point of view rather than a political point of view. It's not I win, you lose. It's not I'm right, you're wrong. It's not. Okay, what it is we the people need to understand we're all God's children. Set aside race, set aside all those differences, and just ask yourselves, what matters the most? Why are you on the earth, right? Why are you on the earth? Why are you alive? Why do you exist? Is it just random acts of chance? Random acts of violence? Just a Big Bang theory? Why are you here? And I think honest people realize that there's something greater, that there's a purpose, that there's a reason. And with that greater purpose, that reason, that this cannot be by accident kind of thought process leads you to believe there is a God. And I would submit to you that all things denote there is a God. Look around you. Look at the order in the universe. The planet spins on its axis. Planets, maneuver around one another. They're all in space. There's an order. If you look up and look at the moon and the stars and pay attention to the globe you're standing on and all these different things, and you say there's an order to things. Who put that order in motion? Was it by happenstance? Not a chance. Okay? And so all things denote there is a God. And if there's a God, then what is his relationship to you? Right? And you start to go down this line of thinking, and if you're honest with yourself, you say, well, if there's an order to the universe, if there's order to all things around me, it's man, natural man, which is an enemy to God. That's what creates disorder. God creates order. He's in his heavens. He is watching with a loving eye. Every one of us, his children. Yes, there's a binary. Literally his sons and daughters. Male and female created he them. And when you think about God's order, that he lives, that he loves us, that he exists, you start to think, wow, if I'm his son or daughter, that's what the Bible says, then you know what? He loves me just like I would love my children, or I do love my children. I say I would because what if you don't have children? You would love them if you had them. I personally have children and grandchildren, and I love every one of them so dearly. More than life itself, I love them. And so I look at that and I go, really important stuff. And then I kind of think to myself, all knowledge is not equal. The knowledge that God lives in his heavens and that he loves his children and that he's watching over us and that he cares and that I, as small as I am in the universe, I am known to God. He knows me. He knows who I am. And he is intimately involved in the details of my life. Yeah, I matter to him. I'm important to God. He has time for me. He is interested in my well-being. He has my best interest in mind and in his heart. And he knows what's best for me. And he's given me the opportunity to turn to him in prayer and guidance. One of the most powerful, in my opinion, powers we have is the opportunity to pray. There's power in prayer, people. There's power in turning to God and having faith and trust in him. And when you put your trust in God, boy, howdy do you have good things happen. God can make more of your life than you can if you just turn your life over to him and say, hey, who am I? Why am I here? What should I be doing? What is my purpose? God, do you know me? Do you care about me? And asking those questions in prayer and ending in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. There's power. There's hope. There's comfort. There's strength. And when you pray to God Almighty and develop a relationship with him, then you start to live your life as a purpose-driven life. You say, well, if my Father in heaven, God Almighty, is in his heavens and he knows me and he loves me and he's aware of me and he has my best interest at heart and in his mind, and I turn to him and ask for his guidance and his direction, surely he will put thoughts into my mind and into my heart. And as I make decisions every day, he can help me make wise decisions. Decisions that will obviously bless me, but more importantly, give me the opportunity to bless the lives of other people, to serve and to love and to lead by example and to keep the commandments of God, and blessings pour down from heaven. And wow, what an opportunity that is. You say, Sam, what got you on this God bender? Well, I just got thinking about it, and I just thought, man, we need to realize who we are. And then I saw this interesting story that I found fascinating. The Tabernacle Choir, one of the oldest and largest choral organizations in the world, broadcast its 5,000th episode of Music and the Spoken Word last Sunday. Yes, indeed. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, it's a huge choir, right? 5,000 episodes. One of the longest running broadcast church services, called Music and the Spoken Word, has aired each week without interruption since July 1929 and has been heard by 6 million people in over 50 countries around the globe on radio, television, and through online streaming. Now that is something, people. Sunday's episode, they say, commemorated more than 9 decades of music and messages shared with audiences in the United States and beyond, the choir said. 9 decades, man. Sunday's event, that's last Sunday, like, what? Yeah, 2 days ago, was broadcast from the conference center of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I guess they had the, they called it a pre-show, and then the 5,000th episode, and then a, quote, post-show of Music and the Spoken Word. So they really had a celebration. The fifth, or I'm sorry, I don't know how to say this word very well. The 5,000th episode of Music and the Spoken Word represents more than longevity and, quote, international reach. Anyway, the parent company of the Hill newspaper mentioned this and said, this is so significant. It's just, wow. And so what happened is I saw this thing about the Tabernacle Choir, and I just thought, wow. What a milestone. And all the time, this music and the spoken word has been focused on God and his son, Jesus Christ, who sacrificed for every one of us. And then our relationship as we ponder who we are, what our purpose is, what we ought to spend our time on, and more, right? What an incredible historical reality. Hang tight. I'm Sam Bushman, Liberty Roundtable, live.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government, and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Experience the untamed spirit of the American West with Range Magazine. Each issue is a visual journey featuring award-winning photography and compelling stories that capture the heart of ranching and rural life. Stay informed on the challenges and triumphs of those who live and work on the land. Subscribe today and receive quarterly editions delivered to your doorstep, and join a community that cherishes the enduring legacy of the Western frontier. Visit rangemagazine.com to subscribe.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
All right, back with you live. So if you want to learn more about the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square in Salt Lake City, Utah, you can go to churchofjesuschrist.org and learn about it. You know, and a lot of people are like, well, hey, man, I'm not a member of that church, or I'm not a Mormon. They're nicknamed the Mormons. You know, hey, why would I do that? Because it's really a broadcast for the ages, folks. It's been going on since 1929, 96 years old. Over 5,000, I guess they've got 5,000 weekly broadcasts to date. That is something. And that's because it has a worldwide international appeal, not because people agree with every tenet of the religion, or not because people are members or not members of the religion, but because it provides a message of hope. It provides a message of clarity. It provides a message and a forum. You know, music touches souls, folks, and a forum for people to literally listen and contemplate their status or their relationship to, or their standing, or whatever you want to call it, before God Almighty. And if you're standing, you feel like it's not so good, it inspires you, encourages you, exhorts you to make course corrections in your life to where, you know what, next week you're a little closer to God, a little more hope, a little more faith, a little more confidence as you stand before your Maker. Anyway, the whole point is that it's really important for people to kind of think, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? What am I to do when I'm here? Am I loved? What if I've made a lot of mistakes? Is there hope? Can I be forgiven? Oh, yeah. The Savior, Jesus Christ's invitation is very clear to each of us, to every one of us worldwide. And because of broadcasts like Music in the Spoken Word, produced by the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, you know what? People can really think about their lives and who they are and all that, right? Anyway, it's free. It's available. And what a celebration. The National Association of Broadcasters celebrating this because it's a broadcast accomplishment like no other. I mean, which group can say, yeah, we've had 96 years? We're about to celebrate the 100th year celebration of broadcast excellence, if you will. And which group can say, yeah, we've had 96 years of this every single week without interruption, 5,000 episodes. Man, I've been broadcasting for a long time, people. I've been at it for 30 years. And I broadcast every day, 5 days a week, often 6 days a week. And I have more hours on the radio than that by far. I've got way more than 5,000 hours on the radio. But I don't have near that number of broadcasts consecutively. I've only been at it for 30 years. These guys, 96 years. And you say, well, Sam, that's not just one person. That's been, the choir. I know. But it's still an accomplishment like I don't know that anybody else has that kind of accomplishment in the world. If so, it's scant few, to say the least, right? So it is a broadcast excellence marvel, in my opinion, is what it is. And everybody in broadcasting is acknowledging it, celebrating it, etc. And I found that quite interesting, quite cool for people to kind of consider and think about, right? All right, our prayers go out to people who are suffering from natural disasters, okay? There's a lot of suffering. You've heard for days about the floods in Texas. And it's called hill country over there. And so I guess what happens is the floods get rolling and then they kind of go down those hills and people get trapped and all this kind of stuff. And it's horrible. And the flood, I'm not sure what you call it, flood levels rise so quickly. I mean, they get so much rain so quickly, flood levels rise to where people just can't even deal with it. And it's a tragic situation. So our prayers are with the people in those floods without a doubt. But folks, it's not just them that are suffering. Grand Canyon North Rim closed amid raging wildfires. So you got wildfires in the west, flooding in the south. Now I see this headline that storm tracker system could bring heavy rain to Florida, Gulf Coast in coming days. And how bad will that be? I don't know. I just know this. There's so many natural disasters, from earthquakes to fires to tornadoes to hurricanes to floods to, fires. It's just, wow. And the reason that I spend time on this is, one, I want to acknowledge and pray for those who are suffering and who will continue to suffer. But more importantly, what's fascinating to me is when we talk about this in the mainstream press, the news or whatever, everybody talks about it. They talk about how horrible it is. They talk about, hey, it's, government's fault because government doesn't let people, for example, in the fire example, doesn't let people thin out the trees. You can't touch the forest land or you can't touch and so then it overgrows and it's not maintained properly and therefore it's way worse. And, there's plenty of blame to go around, right? And then people say it's global warming and other people say, no, it's not. It's irresponsible land management. No, it's not. And then people say, golly, we could have stopped these floods in Texas. But, hey, NOAA, government agency, was derelict in its duty. And then others are saying, no, they tried to report it the fastest, the best they can. And then someone else says no. And someone else says, well, they could have known in advance. And someone else says, no, they couldn't. And the debate rages. But nobody in my mind that I can see. Now, you might have religious preachers up on the pulpit speaking about this, or you might have a few religious broadcasts speaking out about this, but rarely do people speak about this in the secular world. And I try to not think of the world as the secular world and the Christian world, even though society has divided them into two camps. I believe intentionally so, with a goal to divide, which is sad. But we on this broadcast represent the Christian audience and also represent the secular audience. To me, they're one and the same. Because people listening to the radio, wherever they are, they have their heart and their mind and their religion, hopefully, ingrained in their soul. And if they don't, our goal is to help them to do so. I'm not here to tell you which religion to join. I am here to invite you to think about God and his love, and invite you to think about your standing or your relationship with him. Because I know that once you develop a relationship with God Almighty, he can bless your lives. The Founding Fathers understood that. They didn't agree with each other on religion exactly. They had their own different views, their views were quite divergent, to be factual. But they all agreed that, you know what, there's a higher source of authority and power than government. And they also, to a man, acknowledged that God or some unseen hand, or they called it deity or the creator or the unseen, there was plenty of names for it. But they realized and acknowledged this force driving them towards the sacred principle of liberty and inviting them to contemplate, to ponder who they are and what's going on in their lives, and then to think about, hey, I'm on a sacred mission. I have responsibility on the earth. Well, the founders understood this. We need to carry that legacy forward in our day and in our lives and say, hey, God's put me on the earth at this time as his son. And what am I to do when I'm here? I'm to tell the world about God and his sacred sacrifice, culminating in his son, Jesus Christ, and his exemplary life. And eventually his willing to give his life for, I would say, his friends, for those who believe in him, for those who put their trust in him. I am one of those. And so, God loves us. So he sent his son. And Jesus Christ suffered and died, and most importantly, was resurrected. He lives today. And it's important that we contemplate that in our lives and then take action. What am I to do while I'm here? If he put me on the earth at this time out of love and he cares about my well-being, then what does he want me to do? And as the Savior Jesus Christ said, I'm about my Father's business. We ought to be on errand, if you will, and be about our Father's business, don't you think? And so when I think about the Grand Canyon North Rim closing because of mid-raging wildfires, and I think about the storm trackers, heavy rain going to Florida, and I think about the people in the floods in Texas, and I think about, fires in California and in the Grand Canyon and all these places. I just think, man, we've got to turn to God more. We've got to bring up the God factor, if you will, and say, hey, do you think if we keep his commandments, do you think if we turn to him and repent and change and do better and serve God and serve our fellow men? In other words, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Do you think if I focus on those two great commandments, and then I use the 10 commandments as my guide for a well-purposed life? In other words, I say in my heart and in my mind, hey, he loved me first. I'm going to love God back, and I'm going to keep his commandments. I know that he's put those commandments in place not to chain me down, but to give me flight. Yeah, it's kind of like a kite. You got to have a string to hold it up. It sounds contrary when you're a little kid, but you understand the string is not the enemy of the kite's flight. It's actually the reason the kite can fly. Well, the same thing is true in our lives, right? God and his commandments are the reasons that we can be successful. Anyway, I encourage everyone to think about, with these natural disasters and everything else, hey, let's go to work and help one another through these crises. Let's bear one another's burdens, shall we? That's a commitment we make at baptism as followers of Christ. But let's do all that we can and then turn to God in prayer for the rest, shall we? Hang tight. I've got a whole lot of hard-hitting news that's not so godlike coming up, but we got to talk about it all. We'll do it in seconds. You're listening to the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Jason Walker. An Israeli ultra-Orthodox party announcing plans to leave Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition government. That decision seen as an attempt to destabilize Netanyahu's leadership amid the ongoing war in Gaza. The party cites disagreements over a bill granting military draft exemptions for, quote, religious students. A veteran megachurch pastor is dead.
Radio Bible teacher and author Dr. John MacArthur has died. He was 86 years old. Dr. MacArthur was senior pastor at Grace Community Church in Sun Valley, California since 1969. Dr. MacArthur was also the featured speaker on his popular syndicated radio Bible teaching program, Grace to You. Dr. MacArthur was one of evangelicalism's most influential pastors for decades.
That is correspondent Andrew Stewart. Dr. MacArthur survived by his wife, Patricia, 4 adult children, and their families. Also at townhall.com, investigation continuing in Fall River, Massachusetts, where 9 elderly people have been killed, dozens more injured in a blaze in an assisted living facility. Residents praise the firefighters and police for their heroic efforts, but they say staff members did very little, if any, to help them get out. Gabriel House resident Robert Cabral says he feels very fortunate to be alive.
I live on the first floor near the exit door. When the fireman came in, busted the window, banged on my door, get out, I get out right away what I have on.
Authorities say the dead ranged in age from 61 to 86. Wildfire that destroyed historic Grand Canyon Lodge in Colorado still spreading after it had been allowed to burn for several days. Officials say so far more than 70 structures have been destroyed. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my 2 sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-226-5454. That's 800-226-5454. 800-226-5454.
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
To leave a message, press 1. To change your message, press 7.
Hey, Mom, Dad, Mark here. Wow, I love college. Really. I never knew living on my own could be so, good for me.
To change your message, press 7.
So, here I am at college. It's cool. Well, of course, it's only been a week.
To change your message.
Hey, it's me. I was just remembering that time I hit my first home run. You know, through the garage window. Thanks for not being mad. No.
To change.
Hi. Boy, I miss you guys. I miss my room. I miss waking up to warm socks straight from the dryer. Warm socks.
Family. Isn't it about time?
Hi, it's Mark. Love you guys. I'll call you later.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all doing fantastic. There's so much news, it's just hard to even deal with it all, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know this, but the U.S. House of Representatives has initiated what they call, quote, Crypto Week. Have you heard about this? I kid you not. Focusing on legislation for, quote, stablecoins, digital assets, and CBDCs, or CDBCs, if you will. You say, what's that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, they're calling it the Genius Act. All right, the bill's called the Genius Act. And Genius, I guess, is like an acronym or whatever, right? They say it's already passed the Senate and is expected to pass in the House as well. Another bill aims to establish what they call a regulatory framework for the broader cryptocurrency market to facilitate what they call mainstream investment. The third bill, that's why it's called Crypto Week, people. The third bill seeks to prevent the Federal Reserve from introducing a, quote, U.S. digital dollar, citing concerns over government overreach. I agree there's big concerns about government overreach for sure, but do we want a digital dollar? Right? Digital U.S. dollar. President Trump's pro-crypto stance, they say, influenced by his family investments, has brought significant legislative attention to cryptocurrencies. Now, Donald was against crypto before he was for crypto, just so you understand. And this is a big deal because they're talking about 3 different bills. And so the U.S. House of Representatives have created what's called Crypto Week. And I don't know how many of you even know what's going on with this. This is where, there's sadly a disconnect between Congress, meaning those who represent us, right, and we the people. See, Congress meets, less days than you and I have to go to work, that's for sure. Some say it's 120 to 150 days a year. It all depends on whether it's the House or the Senate. It depends on what year, because they don't meet the same number of days every year. They take off. They're in recess more than all of us can possibly imagine. They go back and forth between their, quote, districts, their district offices, and then their Washington, D.C. offices. They usually run, Monday through Thursday in Washington, and then come home for elongated weekends and all this kind of stuff. So it's very complicated. But the reason I bring this up is it's sad to me. It's sad to me that we, the people, don't really know what our Congress critters are doing. I get that you don't need to micromanage your congressman or senator, and I agree. But I also think we need to know what they're doing. I think most of us don't have a clue. And sadly, I know that I try to call my congressman or senator, and I never get my congressman or senator, first of all. But secondly, it's even tough to get a staffer these days. Call 202-225-3121, and then they'll answer, and they'll say Capital, or sometimes an automated attendant will answer. And then you can tell it, hey, I'd like to, speak with Mike Lee, senator in Utah, or whatever your, congressman or senator might be. And then, hopefully they'll answer, and you can at least give a comment to your congressman or senator. Rarely do you get any feedback from them. Oftentimes, if you do, it's only a form letter. So it's really sad how we don't communicate with them very much, and they don't communicate with us very much. Now, when it comes election time, they have, a bullet pointed, I've done all these incredible things for you, please elect me once again kind of, discussions. Or sometimes someone will ask them a hard question, or sometimes there'll be a debate to watch, but rarely do you really get any insight into what they're doing on a consistent basis. Meaning, hey, can you tell me what your congressman or senator's done since January the 3rd or 4th, whenever they were put in? What was it, the 3rd or 4th, something like that? So let's see, 6 months at least, February, March, April, May, June, July, a solid 6 months. What have they done? What have they spent their time on? Well, I know they passed 2 massive, reckless, in my humble opinion, spending bills. And I know they've codified some of Donald Trump's executive orders. I read somewhere that they put, they codified like 28 of them or something like that. Man, other than that, I don't really know what they've done. Well, if you say 150 days they're working, it's already been, quote, 75 of those days. Wow, huh? 75 days, and all I can say is they passed some big belligerent spending bills, which I've rejected. I think they should not have done. And I called my members of Congress and asked them to please vote against it. Why? Because it put us $5 trillion more in debt. Rand Paul is spot on that. Why? Because it's 900 plus pages and no one's read it. I don't know that there's a single person that's read it. But see, I want to call my congressmen and senators and say, you voted for this bill, right? Yes. Okay, did you read it? And I want to know if they read it. Because I don't believe that anybody read it. They just voted yes on it, which means they don't know what's in it. They don't know what they really agreed to if they haven't read it. So, see, that's why I'm against those bills. Now, are there some good things in the bills? Absolutely. Rand Paul said so. Many people have said so. But Thomas Massey, congressman from Kentucky, he pointed out some of the things that are like, hey, there's just too much spending in this bill. For example, over $1 trillion for the military alone. We don't need to spend $1 trillion to defend the greatest country on the face of the earth, folks. We just don't. Do we need to spend money on the military? Absolutely. Is the military legitimate? You bet. In defense of this country and in protection of our interests around the world, I support all that. But not to the tune of $1 trillion. That's the military machine cranked up. That's where you hear, oh, we spent, so many $1,000s on toilet seats or whatever garbage they come up with next, right? I want a lean, mean military that focuses on defending our country, protecting our interests around the world, maybe even on occasion in extreme situations supporting those who want freedom. There's a limited amount of that makes some sense, but not to the tune of $1 trillion a year. See, even Donald Trump said we could chop that to $500 billion and be just fine. Well, why didn't they do it? Now Congress is supposed to be, talking about crypto week. Why are they talking about crypto week? Well, there's a big battle between the Federal Reserve chair and Donald now. Donald's going after Federal Reserve guy, saying he misstepped. He spent too much building the upgraded new Federal Reserve facility. And now Powell, that's his name, Mr. Powell, is firing back, saying, oh, no, that's not right. And why don't you come and audit this thing? And there's a big old waste of time battle there. But see, the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. So is moving to a digital currency. It's flat out wrong. It's unconstitutional and it needs to stop. Anyway, why do I bring all this up? Because the House of Representatives are in what they call digital, what is this thing called? Crypto week is what they're calling it, right? Do you want Congress to focus on crypto week? See, I think Congress should be focused on the Constitution and honest money, honest weights and measures, as the Bible calls it. And, real money is codified in the Constitution. We're not supposed to use fake money. So I don't want to talk about crypto week or a digital currency or any of those things in Congress. But see, here's the problem. They're moving forward belligerently. And if we're not very careful, we're going to end up with a digital currency. So there are people on Capitol Hill, and I'm grateful for them, that are bringing this to our attention and saying, listen, focus on your congressman or senator. Find out what they're doing. Okay, I started out with that idea that we don't even know what they're doing. Find out what they're doing and make sure that your voice is heard. Okay, if they get enough phone calls, if they get enough interest, they will pay attention to you. But not if there's just very few. So the U.S. House of Representatives may vote as early as tomorrow on legislation to prohibit the Federal Reserve from implementing a CBDC nationally. I think that's great news, right? CampaignForLiberty.org is who brought this to my attention, Ron Paul, and I commend him for it. The bill is called H.R. 1919. 1919. They call it the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act. What would it do, you say? It would prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing CBDCs or anything substantially similar under, quote, any other name or label directly to an individual. Yeah, that's really significant, right? Okay, so it would stop government from digital currency, basically. It would prohibit the Fed from indirectly issuing a CBDC. Prohibit the Fed from using a CBDC for monetary policy. I'll give you the rest of the deets in seconds on your radio.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So the bill is called H.R. 1919, the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act. And I really think it's great. It basically is pretty wise. It says, hey, we're going to stop you from creating a digital currency. I don't care what name, I don't care what label you use. Hey, you can't directly or indirectly issue a CBDC. You can't do it for what they call monetary policy. It would prohibit the Board of Governors of the Fed from issuing a CBDC, which I think is really significant. But here's the problem. All we got to do is get rid of the Federal Reserve, and you wouldn't have to worry about that, right? It's really important to understand. It includes clear language that this does not apply to what they call open, permissionless private currencies, i.e. cryptocurrencies. Now, that's where the loophole is if you're not very careful, ladies and gentlemen. Because then they'll say, well, what about Bitcoin? What about... They say the bill could come to the House floor tomorrow. So please call your representative now and say, hey, please support this bill. They say call 202-224-3121. You can do that, or 225-3121. In the old days, the 224 went, I think, to the Senate, and the 225 went to the House of Representatives, or maybe it was the opposite. I can't remember. But anyway, now you just dial 220 or 202 and either 224 or 225-3121. And tell them to vote yes. Please vote yes on H.R. 1919. Right? They say you don't need to give a complicated argument about this thing. Just tell them to vote for the bill and defend your freedom and your privacy. Rand Paul and the folks over at Campaign for Liberty even give you a script that you can use when you call. I think this is actually really cool because I think it helps people really understand, hey, I don't have to be a politician. I don't have to know everything. I just have to care and be willing to get involved. So they say this, hi, this is, and then they fill in your name and state. Hi, this is Sam Bushman calling from American Fork, Utah. And I'm calling to tell my representative, my House member or senator, please vote yes on H.R. 1919 to prohibit the central bank from creating a digital currency. Americans do not need and do not want a central bank digital currency. It's being pushed on us because it can become an interest of public control. Besides, the Federal Reserve is not authorized to issue a digital currency anyway. Why do you want me to vote for the bill? Because we need to strengthen that protection. Please vote yes on 1919, the CBDC Anti-Surveillance Act. Anyway, I really appreciate Ron Paul and company for bringing this to our attention. It's really important because I think people don't really realize this is happening in Congress, right? How many people realize that Congress is working on this right now? I don't think very many realize this. Right? I don't think people really realize how important this is and what's going on in Congress. You know, and I think once in a while people hear on talk radio, hey, call about this bill. But I don't think people really realize consistently how important it is to keep tabs on your representatives and realize that they work for us. And if you didn't vote, I pray you vote in the future. I know a lot of people feel disenfranchised and feel like it doesn't do any good, but I maintain to you that it does good. Anytime you do what's right, it furthers the cause of right. Anytime you do that which is good, it promotes the cause and advances the cause of good. And that's why I want you to do that. I want you to make a valiant stand. I want you to stand up. I want you to get involved. Okay, anyway. And call your congressman and senator. Let them know how you feel. And I want to give you some advice about this. Don't, and I repeat, don't. Please do not call and be belligerent. I know you might get frustrated and I know you might get angry because you feel like they're clowns and you feel like they're just on the take and you feel like, you know, I get all that and I understand the frustration. But please do not call them and be belligerent or be confrontational or in your face, or that's part of the reason that they used to take our phone calls. And then they put staffers to take our phone calls. And now they put voicemails to take our phone calls because oftentimes people have been so in your face that they're just like, look, we're not going to take this. And sadly, I don't blame them. You know, oftentimes we have too much government because government fills the gap when we're failing at something societally or individually or as families or as churches. And so government then fills that vacuum, that void. That's why we have so much government, because we just haven't done a good job. You know, you look at all the government programs right now. The states are rioting because Donald Trump's pulling money from them for a variety of things, right? After school programs, SNAP, which is a food program, you know, education, and states are freaking out and suing the government. We'll get into that next hour. But the reason that I bring this all up is because the whole reason government's there in the first place is because we didn't do our job as individuals and families and Christians and churches and communities. And we let the government kind of fill that void. And so, you know, sadly, we have a responsibility here. I'm not trying to, you know, cast blame on anyone, but we have a responsibility here. And let's take that responsibility and keep an eye on our congressmen and our senators and say to them, you know what? I am aware of what you're doing. Thanks to Liberty RoundTable and other incredible informative talk shows, especially those syndicated by the Loving Liberty radio networks. LovingLiberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, download the iPhone or the Android app. Listen to your heart's content, or you can simply listen online at LovingLiberty.net as well. I digress, except to say, hey, let your congressman and senator know you're watching them and that you care and that it matters to you on what they vote for and what they vote against. and that you're caught up on the issues. You may not be, an expert on everything, but you are aware and you do care. Think about that. You are aware and you do care. And then call them up and be very polite but insistent. Okay, don't be belligerent, but be polite. Say, you know what? I want you to vote yes on H.R. 1919. It's a great bill that stops the digital currencies. I'd eventually like you to abolish the Federal Reserve and move towards constitutional hard money, gold and silver. And be very polite, very insistent. And if they insult you or they seem to not take what you say seriously, just be polite. So I got a question for you to kind of finish this topic a little bit here. Does your congressman or senator know your name? Does your sheriff know your name? Do your state representatives at the state level know your name? Does your city council or your mayor or whatever know your name, or your town leader know your name, whether it be a mayor, whether it be a city manager? Do they know your name? And if not, my question to you would be, why not? And the answer will invariably be because I haven't spent enough time getting to know them. You don't get to know them to cause conflict. You get to know them to build relationships of trust and say, hey, you know what? We want you to serve well. We want you to look back on your time in service with no regrets. We want to surround you with support and help to do that which is right. We want to make sure you're aware of all the issues. We know you got your arms full. There's a lot going on and you can make mistakes. We're here to support you and love you and guide you and clearly lead. And so, hey, the U.S. House of Representatives has initiated, quote, Crypto Week this week, focusing on legislation for digital coins, digital asset stable coins, and CBDCs, that's digital currencies. Okay, did you know that? All right, then did you know that U.S. House of Representatives are going to be voting, possibly tomorrow, on prohibiting, in my opinion, this is great news, on prohibiting digital currencies? So call and say, please vote yes on H.R. 1919. It's the CBDC Anti-State Surveillance Act. It would prohibit the Federal Reserve from creating any type of digital currency. Doesn't matter what you name it, label it, it would prohibit it. This is a really must-pass bill. And this is where the Republicans, under the leadership of Donald Trump, can shine. And any Democrat that wants fiscal conservative viewpoints as well and wants accountability should not use their party to vote partisan. They should use their mind and their heart to vote honestly and say, look, we don't want the general government to move towards a digital currency. We just don't. We want to prohibit the Board of Governors from issuing a CBDC. Or it's called a CBDC. Sorry, I always, for some reason, get that mixed up. CBDC. Okay, we want to prohibit that. Okay, call your rep, ask them. Like I say, be polite. Americans don't need and don't want a central bank digital currency. That's what it stands for, central bank digital currency. We don't want one of those. Anyway, use your influence, ladies and gentlemen. Do so respectfully and realize that it's a sacred duty. It's your responsibility, but it's also a blessing and a half for those who take it seriously, because we can have our influence felt. And yes, indeed, you can make a difference before your God, especially if you're on his errand, right? And you can make a difference in your country. You can also make a difference in your family. And there's a lot to do, isn't there, folks? But pray to God and go to work, and hey, you'll feel great at the end of the day with no regrets. You'll be able to sleep at night. How's that? Thanks for being alongside for the ride. We're syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Network. Spread the word, lovingliberty.net. Share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.